Before we get to the suffering, we need to understand who Job was. The Bible describes him in a single sentence that is almost jarring in its completeness: blameless and upright, fearing God and turning away from evil. This is not a man who missed something. This is not a man who had a secret sin. Job is, by God's own testimony, the finest human being on earth. He has 7 sons and 3 daughters, thousands of animals, more servants than he can count. He is the greatest man among all the people of the East, and he is about to lose everything, not because of anything he did or didn't do. This is the single most important fact in the entire book. The moment you understand that Job is righteous and still suffers, the whole neat system of obey God and prosper falls apart. The book of Job is not about a bad man getting what he deserved. It is about the best man alive getting what he did not deserve at all. Then there is a scene that happens completely outside Job's awareness. The sons of God present themselves before God, and among them is one called the adversary. The word in Hebrew is Hasatan, not a proper name yet, but a title, the one who accuses. God opens the conversation.
Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one like him on earth. The accuser's response cuts to the heart of every human being's relationship with God. Does Job fear God for nothing? You put a hedge around him and blessed everything he has.
Stretch out your hand and touch what he has, and he will curse you to your face. What the accuser is really asking is a question that deserves to be taken seriously. Is any human being's love for God genuine, or is it a return on a comfortable investment?
Do we worship God because he is worthy, or because he is useful? God permits the test, not because he needs to know the answer, but because the answer needs to be demonstrated.
4 messengers arrive in rapid succession. Each one barely finishes speaking before the next arrives. The Sabians have stolen the oxen and donkeys and killed all the servants. Fire has fallen from heaven and burned all the sheep and shepherds. The Chaldeans have taken the camels and killed the rest of the servants. And then the last messenger.
Your sons and daughters were feasting in their brother's house. A great wind came from the wilderness and struck the house. It fell. All of them are dead. 4 catastrophes in the space of a single morning.
Job's financial world, gone. Job's children, all 10 of them, gone in an instant. Job tears his robe. He shaves his head. He falls to the ground. And then he says something that has astonished readers for 3,000 years. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away.
Blessed be the name of the Lord. No rage, no bargaining, no accusation. Pure worship in the worst moment of a human life.
The adversary returns. Job is still upright in his integrity, he says. Of course he is. You only let me touch his possessions. Touch his flesh and bone, and then we will see. God permits this too. Job is struck from the soles of his feet to the crown of his head with terrible sores. He sits in the ashes. He scrapes himself with a broken piece of pottery. His wife, who has also lost everything, who watched all 10 of her children die, looks at her husband in his ruin and says, "Do you still hold your integrity? Curse God and die." She is not the villain of this story.
She is a devastated woman, giving her husband what sounds like mercy. Just stop. Let it end. Job's response is gentle. Shall we accept good from God and not accept adversity? And then 3 friends arrive.
3 men who love Job enough to come when everything is gone. They sit with him in the ash heap for 7 days and 7 nights. They say nothing because the grief is too great for words. These 7 days of silence are the most compassionate thing anyone does in the entire book.
Job curses the day he was born. He demands an explanation. And that is when his friends start talking. Eliphaz goes first. He is the gentlest. Think, has an innocent person ever perished?
The implication is clear. You must have done something. Bildad is less gentle. If your children sinned against God, he gave them over to their rebellion. Your children deserved what happened to them. Zophar is the least gentle of all. God exacts of you less than your guilt deserves. Job, they are telling you, you got off easy.
These three men represent the theology that feels safe, the transactional universe. God rewards the righteous and punishes the wicked. If something terrible is happening to you, you must be wicked. It is a theology that protects the friends from the terror of Job's situation, because if Job is righteous and still suffers, then anyone can suffer, including them.
Job's response to all of it is ferocious. Will you speak falsely for God? Will you show partiality to him? Will you contend for God? God will surely rebuke you. You are defending a version of God that doesn't exist. What Job does next is one of the most audacious things any human being does in Scripture. He demands a hearing with God himself, not explanation, a hearing. I would speak to the Almighty. I want to argue my case with God. He knows what this might mean. If God enters the room, Job might not survive the encounter, yet he would rather be destroyed by the presence of God than comforted by the absence of answers. I know that my Redeemer lives, Job declares. And after my skin has been destroyed, yet in my flesh I shall see God. This is a man with no Bible, no New Testament, no resurrection doctrine. He arrives at the conviction that he will stand before God after death purely from the logic of his own relationship with the Almighty. If God is who I know him to be, Job reasons, then not even death can be the end of this conversation. Job's faith does not need circumstances to confirm it. It precedes and survives them. He refuses to lie to God on God's behalf, and out of the whirlwind, God will honor that refusal. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind, and what God says is not what anyone expected. There is no explanation. There is no defense. God does not explain the wager. He does not apologize. Instead, God asks questions. Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Have you commanded the morning since your days began? Can you bind the chains of the Pleiades? Have you entered into the springs of the sea?
Have you seen where the snow is stored? Who provides food for the raven? The questions go on for 4 chapters. They are not cruel questions. They are questions about the wild, untamable scope of creation, the lion hunting its prey, mountain goats giving birth in secret places, the warhorse that laughs at fear.
God is not saying, I am big and you are small. Be quiet. God is saying, the universe is far larger and wilder than the system your friends described. You have been trying to fit me and creation into a framework designed for insurance claims. The world is not an insurance policy. Sometimes suffering is an invitation into a reality too large for ledgers.
Job's response to all 4 chapters of divine questioning is 2 words in Hebrew, I am small, and then, I had heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eye sees you. He does not get his explanation. He does not get a verdict declaring him innocent. He does not get a refund on his suffering. He gets God. And that turns out to be enough. Not because suffering doesn't matter. The losses are still real. His children are still dead. But something has shifted at the level of reality itself. Job encountered the God who holds the wild complexity of creation and still knows Job's name. The friends who gave the neat explanation are rebuked by God himself. You have not spoken of me what is right, as my servant Job has. Job's honest rage, his insistence on confrontation, his refusal to perform peace he didn't have, that was right speech. And then God restores Job, twice what he had before. The restoration is not a promise that honest faith always brings prosperity. It is an epilogue that says the God of the whirlwind is also a God of abundance. The point is what happened in the ash heap before the restoration. The point is that Job held on when there was no earthly reason to, and in the whirlwind he found out why he was right to hold on.